All right, all right. What's going on with the Cincinnati Bengals and Trey Hendrickson? Because this situation between the two just keeps getting uglier and uglier. And at the end of the video, after we break everything down, I'm going to tell you guys why the Bengals should ultimately trade Trey Hendrickson away to get more draft capital in return. Before we jump into all of it, though, hope y'all are having a fantastic, fantabulous, awesome freaking day. My name is Garrett Shoemake, and this is the Shoemake Take. Hope y'all are doing well. So this situation with the Bengals and Trey Hendrickson is very interesting, and all for the wrong reasons, of course. So the Cincinnati Bengals, to this point, they have said that they're going to extend Trey Hendrickson. It was last offseason that they were going to extend him, and Trey Hendrickson plays the whole season, leads the league with 17 and a half sacks. Mind you, along with that, he's been a top 3 sack leader in the NFL since joining the Cincinnati Bengals, I'm pretty sure, if not top 3, top 5. And the Bengals made their word. They said they're going to pay him after this offseason, or after this past season. And they are cold feet, not doing anything. They're not budging. And now they're saying they're not paying him. I'm pretty sure they said that. I could be wrong on that 100%. But either way, the deal's not getting done as of this time. There's no negotiations. Trey Hendrickson has tried communicating, and he has received no communication from the Cincinnati Bengals whatsoever. And when the Bengals veterans came back in earlier last week for OTAs, organized team activities, here is what he said to an interviewer. Trey Hendrickson said to an interviewer about the situation. Quick disclaimer before I jump though, sorry. This video that I'm about to show you is not mine. I do not own it. I did not create it. I'm only using it to amplify my content. So I just wanted to say it again. This is not mine. I do not own it. Okay. Cue the video.
Because you try not to let the business become personal. I think over the last week or so, it's become personal, unfortunately. And when there's a lack of communication in any relationship, if it's business or a personal relationship, lack of communication leads to animosity, and that leaves my narrative only to me with no clear direction. So the lack of direction, the lack of communication is leading to things that are allowing me to think about what's going to happen more than how great they have treated me over the last 4 years. Because let me say, my son was born, I've said it to everyone, my son was born right up the road. My wife worked at the Cincinnati VA. This is my home, and I wrote that yesterday. It's home. And unfortunately for myself, I have to deal with that kind of dilemma in my own, finding out business and personal. Because on the one hand, you see OTAs and you smell the grass, and it's football. And man, I'd be lying if I said I didn't love it. And on the other hand, there's a proper time for that. And there's a lot of things that have to change before that happens.
Okay. That's not good. That's not very good when you hear Trey Hendrickson making those comments about the Bengals in the Bengals facility. That's got to be a punch right to the gut if you're Cincinnati. And right now, they're just in a very difficult spot because they're not keeping their word. Why would you not keep your word? And the thing is, keeping your word for players and for organizations, it goes both ways. People love to trash players when they hold out or when they ask for a new contract, and everyone's like, oh, they're not caring about the team. They're being selfish. But when the team says that they're going to pay the player and then they don't meet their end of the bargain and they pretty much try and screw out the player compared to having it be the other way around according to narratives, crickets. Crickets. I might be putting a sound effect in here. I don't know. I might be. Who knows? I'll figure it out in post-production. And no one wants to call out the Cincinnati Bengals compared to how much they want to call out the player. And part of it, I mean, okay, sure, the player has more. Obviously, they're the forefront of the franchise. That's who the people see. So I get that aspect of it. But the Cincinnati Bengals, they're just full of people too. They're full of people that are fully grown and capable of making decisions, keeping their word just as much as the player. And so the fact that they're not keeping their end of the bargain is dumb. And I get that the financial situation is not great because you paid Jamar Chase and T. Higgins already. They also paid Mike Gesicki this offseason as well and gave him a 3-year extension. I think it was worth $24 million. But for the Bengals, they financially screwed themselves. They decided to give Jamar Chase and T. Higgins way more money up front instead of seriously backloading the contract compared to other big-time deals to help utilize their cap space in 2025 more effectively. But either way, anyways, even if you were to extend Trey Hendrickson and you have enough money to make it happen this offseason, somehow you keep the cap hit low. The cap hit for the Bengals, for Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Burrow, they're all going to go up. It's all going to go higher in 2026 onward. And the cap space for the Bengals is going to be stretched even more thin than it already kind of is right now. So for the Bengals, you got to try and do some restructure. You got to try and do something because, quite frankly, I don't think they have the finances to take on another contract like this. But the problem is they are not keeping their end of the bargain. And instead of just communicating with Trey Hendrickson and being involved in the discussion, it seems like on Trey Hendrickson's end that they're not budging at all. When more than likely, the Bengals are just not doing it because they don't got the money to make it happen. And for the Bengals, if you don't got the money to make it happen, then you got to do something as my tablet falls over. Even it's not happy with the way the Bengals are treating Trey Hendrickson. But isn't this just like how the Bengals operate though? I mean, they're cheap. They're super cheap, not just with the players, with everything, right? They took a year too long to extend Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. I mean, the thing is, had they gotten one or both of those deals done last season, not only would it have been cheaper, but also they would not be in the situation they are in right now. The only reason why they paid them both the contracts that they did this offseason was because of their incompetency and their ability to just be cheap, inability to not be cheap, and just invest in your best players on your roster. And this is a consequence of their actions, a big consequence of their actions. But it's not just nickel and diming their best players and shuffling their feet when it comes time to pay them the big bucks, even though they most quite really deserve it. But they're also considered cheap because they're the last team to have an indoor practice facility. And the practice facility they have is not even good. It's like it's a giant bubble. It's a giant tent. It looks awful. It's literally just an inflated dome. Is exactly what it looks like. It's not even a facility. It's not even close. And then along with that, they have the smallest scouting department in the NFL. I learned about that when I was doing research for this video, which, wonder why the Bengals have been so bad at drafting players over the past few years, especially on the defensive side of the ball. No wonder why the defense is so bad, because the scouting department is so small that they can't do everything they can and do all the research they possibly can to get the best available players. That makes a lot of sense. And then along with that, they're also considered cheap because NFL players themselves routinely score the team low or worse in the NFL and a lot of extra amenities, which you're seeing right now. This was earlier when the season ended. Every team does like this report card thing where the players grade their team on certain categories. And you look right here, they got an F minus, and they got I can't remember what the graphic is off the top of my head, but you guys see it, what the third one is right there. And that's a problem. That's a reflection of being cheap. And of course, the last one, and why rookies Shamar Stewart, for their first round pick, and their second or third round pick linebacker Demetrius Knight are not in practice and they're not practicing, is because the Bengals are the only organization in the NFL that doesn't have complete protection for injuries for rookies when they sign their first contract. Now, I'm not 100% sure on what it is specifically, but I know that it's a thing and that it's real. And so for the Bengals, meanwhile, Shamar Stewart and Demetrius Knight are catching flack on social media for holding out, calling the guys selfish because they want more money. Now, yes, with Shamar Stewart, part of it is more money, yes. But also the big thing is because there's no proper injury protection. I mean, there is, but the protections are not as good compared to the rest of the 31 other teams in the NFL. That's a problem. That's another reflection of being a cheap franchise. And so now going back to Trey Hendrickson, they got an unhappy player, one of the best players on their team, the best player on their entire defense. They don't have the money to properly pay him the extension that he wants and deserves, and they're not doing anything about it. And they're going to keep shuffling their feet until training camp rolls around and he's not showing up, and they're going to be like, oh crap, we need him here. and he's not going to want to budge. They're not going to get a deal done in time, and ultimately the Bengals are going to trade him away, in my opinion, and that's what I think they should do, because they just need to get rid of Trey Hendrickson and stop this holdout. Holdouts, I've made a video on this way long ago, back when the Shoe Make Take first came out. One of the first videos I ever made. I had an old segment called Shoe Make Take Rants. And in that video, I talked about how training camp holdouts are dumb. But in that video, here's why I made this argument. Number one, the team is willing to pay one of their best players to not play. That's why. Like, the team is not going to be willing to do that. They're just going to sit there and pay the player their salary and them not being on the field. That's completely stupid. Secondly, teams would rather play the waiting game than make the real move to solve the issue, which is to either trade him or pay him an extension and try and get it figured out. Number three, the player sitting out eventually hurts them more than just playing. Look at Le'Veon Bell and what happened to his career. Heck, look at Hassan Reddick last offseason, what he did in his contract holdout, and look what happened to him. He came back and he played fine, but he was not the top edge rusher he was the year before, and he ended up signing a 1-year, $14-15 million deal with the Bucs, where sure is he going to be a starter, but he's on a prove-it deal this year. He's not on a long-term contract, and that's because he held out so long. By the time he came back, he had to shut off a bunch of rust, and he just wasn't himself. And that's what happens, and I hate that, because sitting out does hurt the player eventually more than it would just playing. Because if you don't play, you're going to get a lot of rust. You're not going to be the same when you come back. The history shows that when you hold out a decent amount of time and then you go and play later, it's going to hurt your play. And for example, Le'Veon Bell, he was out of the league a year after he held out. He literally signed for like a 4-year deal with the New York Jets, and after year 1, he was out of the league. That's it. And his career was done. And then for Hassan Reddick, he did it one time, and bam, he is now on a 1-year prove-it deal. The truth is in the pudding, guys. Holding out eventually hurts the player more, and it gets to a point where you're already going to lose money on your next contract regardless, so you might as well go play and bet on yourself a little bit. Because if you're going to lose money regardless, at least take the option that at least gives you an opportunity to get that big contract you want. Because holding out's not going to get you the big contract that you want from at least the Bengals, but that leads into them needing to trade Trey Hendrickson, because I don't think the Bengals are going to pay Trey Hendrickson, and they should just get rid of him. The bottom line is, this defense is in shambles. They have a bunch of first-round picks on defense that aren't working out, high or top 100 picks in general that aren't working out, that aren't great players, and simply put, this defense needs a whole revamp and rework. And for the Bengals, with their cap situation with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins, in order to build this roster out and this defense more specifically, they're going to have to really start learning how to nail in the draft and really build through the draft. And that happens with trading away your best defensive player, getting more draft picks back, and it's not about getting enough high picks. You just need more picks in general so you have more swings at the plate, if that makes sense. Quality, you need, in this case, you need more quantity than maybe you do quality. The quality can come later, right? But now you just need as many picks as you can, as many swings as you can at the fence, and hoping that one or two of these players can hit for you, and well, bam, you have new franchise players to build around. But keeping Trey Hendrickson around, a player that the Bengals clearly cannot afford to keep around going into the future, you might as well trade him away as soon as possible while his value is still high. Get something back. You're not going to get a lot back because he wants a new contract, so the team that ultimately trades for him is going to have to agree to give him a new extension, so that's going to hurt the value that the Bengals get back for him. But maybe at best, you get a 3rd-round pick and a late day 3 pick in there somewhere, and maybe there's a couple other compensation things in there as well, but it's just a messy situation for the Cincinnati Bengals, and they have completely screwed themselves out of one of the best edge rushers in the NFL, the best player on their defense, all because they decided to be cheap and shuffle their feet and not do anything. And it's not just this offseason where this is an issue. It's happened last offseason when they chose to not pay Jamar Chase or T. Higgins. They shuffled their feet, waited another year. They were forced to pay them even more money now, and it has completely financially screwed themselves over, giving another big contract to one of their best players and one of the most important parts of their team. And so now I think they have no choice but to trade him. But I think the Bengals are going to shuffle their feet. They're going to not do anything. They're not going to say anything. And then by the time training camp rolls around and Trey Hendrickson isn't showing up, they're going to say, okay, we can't figure this out. Let's now ship him away and get rid of him. And then bam, he's going to be gone and gone somewhere else. Although where Trey Hendrickson could go is an interesting conversation because the Raiders would be fun. I've seen the Vikings, any team in the NFC North not named the Chicago Bears could use him. The Lions could really use him. The Packers could use him. I'm also thinking the Chargers maybe because they don't have a young edge rusher to build around. I mean, Trey Hendrickson's not young by any means, but he's old or younger than Khalil Mack, so that counts for something. And I'm trying to think another team that could use him. The Chiefs could. I mean, if they decided if they wanted to give up the capital, but the Chiefs are probably not going to be able to trade for Trey Hendrickson. I don't think the Bengals would probably trade him to a AFC team anyways. So he's probably going to be shipped off to somewhere in the NFC, which probably increases the chances for the NFC North teams that I mentioned. Trying to think who else could. The Panthers, no. The Panthers do need another edge rusher, but they did go get that in the second round, so maybe not. Sorry, guys. I'm just trying to juggle through it real quick. Trying to think. Maybe Philly. Howie Roseman's a wizard. He could swoop in there and probably get Trey Hendrickson and give him a big contract. That he's really good with that stuff. And also the Eagles aren't really. Are they? Yeah, they're paying a lot of their players, but it's not like the 49ers, for example, where they gave top of the dollar contracts to 6 or 7 players on their roster at one point. So it's not like that. So the Eagles could probably make it work. And the Eagles are probably the only team in the NFL, outside of maybe a couple others, where you could convince Trey Hendrickson to take a little bit of a pay cut for going into a Super Bowl organization and a Super Bowl winning team. Not to mention that the Eagles roster is absolutely stacked still. I expect them to make another run at the Super Bowl again, and maybe when I get to schedule predictions, whenever that comes out, when I'm done making the whole list document and having it completed and making a script about it, maybe I have them going back to the Super Bowl. And if Trey Hendrickson goes to the Eagles, that just increases those odds even more. But it's a very interesting situation. We're going to keep our eye on it, keep tabs on it as it continues to unfold here in the coming months as more as players get back into the building more and they start getting really incorporated into the swing of things, getting back into routine. And then once training camp rolls around, we'll have our answer, I think, as to what the Bengals are going to do with Trey Hendrickson. But for now, that will do it for me today, guys. Hope y'all have enjoyed. If you did, please consider hitting the like button and subscribe button as it helps me out tremendously. Trying to hit 100 subscribers before the NFL season starts, and we're at 62, 63, so we are getting there. We're getting really close so far. Also, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you're a Bengals fan, what do you think of the situation? Do you want the Bengals to pay for Trey Hendrickson? Do you think they should just trade him away and get more draft picks? Let me know all your thoughts down there. Lastly, make sure you guys follow me on social media and share my content on social media, whether it's Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, getting everybody locked in and locked on to the Shoe Make Take, coming out with great content for you guys every single week. That will do it for me today, guys. Hope you all have enjoyed. And as always, I will see you all next time.